Welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Deal. My good friend and host, Tyler Ardron. Morning, Ty.
Good morning, man. What's going on?
Not too much. Good to see you. So we are stoked. We have another, like we said, we've been really trying to focus on people who are creating different types of success in life and help give you folks the play-by-play. So we have a good friend of ours, Lancioni. So Mary and I met on the basketball court, basically. We competed first, which has kind of been a theme here, which is funny. And then we reconnected in the business world as Mary was working with WB Mason, and we started Payday. And then you started your own entrepreneurial kind of trip, which we'll jump into as well, with some other friends of ours. And then you kind of got into real estate. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, tell whatever you like about your family, and then tell us what kind of led you to this part of real estate.
I would say what led me to real estate, I would tell you I don't know the truth. I would say it was progressions in life and surrounding myself slowly with people that started opening my mind to just different routes and different possibilities, and also like what I was passionate about and interested in. To just a quick snippet, my mom was born and raised in Camden. I was born in Camden, and my mother, really, she was a single mom our entire life and raised my brother and I. And she was, I would say, I always use this metaphor. She was riding around with, 2 flat tires and 2 tires that were kind of pumped up. And it was a struggle just growing up in that financial hardship. And I always looked at when I got older that I will never put, if I have a family, in the same position, because I just saw her not only living paycheck to paycheck, but just making decisions on financial constraints. Like, I have to pay an electric bill, or do I buy my son basketball shoes? Like, that's the real reality of some people that live in that economic condition. And I looked at her situation was really, she just didn't have a network of people. She had a hustle. She was very motivated, a clever woman, but outside of it, she didn't connect with anybody. And that's why I see that you guys network a ton, and it's awesome to see. So as I evolved, networking is pretty big in basketball. Everyone knows everybody. You work out together, you play basketball together. And that was a common theme. As I said, I kept it very simple. So the common theme was playing basketball, learning who were the right players in the local community. Then I would travel nationally and play, like AAU tournaments. And it's super, super common now, but it also built a lot of my confidence up, and just seeing what fathers look like fathers that were successful bringing their kids to games. And it was a lot of observing. I wasn't a big social person growing up. I was very introverted, and I just observed a lot. And because I felt, I guess, a lot of intimidation because all the kids were a little smarter than me. That's how I felt. And so fast forward, I just worked my ass off to just be really good at basketball. So I did pretty good in high school, had shitty grades, went to college, kind of eked my way through college. And then really one of my best friends, Sean Fagan, he told me one day, it was about a week before I graduated college, hey, are you interested in a job, and like a sales job? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So it was, I guess his sales manager must have told him like a Monday, he's like, could you come in tomorrow? So I came in, well, that Monday, I remember going to Burlington Coat Factory in Atlantic County, because I went to Stockton, got a suit that was like 2 sizes too big, and I just looked like a mess going to the interview. And I just remember there was a question they asked me about like, what would separate you from another person? I said, if you just teach me the basics, I will just work my ass off to figure it out. And that's really was my answer. And I think whether they liked the answer or not, they hired me because they needed a body, My graduation was that Sunday. I started the next Monday at WB Mason. And from the Monday on, I worked there for 9 years. The interesting part of me working at one job for 9 years, my mother always said, you can never keep a job your entire life. And I didn't. I just didn't have a job. I always turned over in 2-3 months and got fired and hired. And but for some reason at WB Mason, there was this, even though they were corporate and they, in the beginning, there was a lot of just the sales managers were great mentors, and they taught me sales, and they took you under their wings, and they really knew how to motivate you. So it would keep someone like me around because I didn't have many of those type of people. And it taught me a lot of salesmanship and how to go in and present yourself in front of a receptionist. And, then eventually you build up to talk to CEOs of companies and things like that. And there was an itch I had around year 6 of 9 at WB Mason where I was, I remember talking to our biggest sales guy who made probably like $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And I asked him, like, what do you do, when you make income, what do you do with it? Do you invest in stocks? I didn't even say real estate. I think I said stocks. And he said, he's like, no, I just save it. And I don't know what in my brain said that's a bad idea. I'm like, you just can't save. I was
losing
like,
money, but that way.
and he made so much money.
Yeah.
He made a ton of money.
Just with inflation.
Yeah. And then there was actually a warehouse manager. He was the warehouse manager. Now he's the distribution manager. His name's Fred Rodriguez. I love the guy. He owned a bunch of properties in, where the hell is it? It's in, it's near the Piazza, like in that pocket there. Yeah, near like La Colombe. Oh, Fishtown. So he owned a bunch of properties in like the 80s and 90s, and he was sitting on them. And he explained to me, he's like, dude, real estate is a great way to build wealth. And there was a property my brother and I came about that we were interested in, and we asked him, like, do you have any contacts to do construction? So he shared a contact with us to do the construction, and it was the first time that we saw we could buy a property, renovate it, and then income came in without us really having to break our stones for it. Because at WB Mason, you'd have to hustle really hard, and it was just it was eye opening.
Yeah,
that first experience. So then we kind of fast forward as I kept learning the business, and while I was at WB Mason, there was this weird separation of I had so many tenants that I felt like I was a boss now. And then I had other bosses telling me what to do. And I'm like, there's like a conflict of interest where I was like, you know what, I'm actually outgrowing this place, and I need to start taking a gamble on myself. So I wound up leaving WB Mason and doing real estate full-time on my own. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I was making serious money when I left, and I took a pay cut in half. And then from there, I just kind of exploded and scaled the real estate business at that point.
I think sometimes it does, like, you just fall into the best of things, right? But it's like you were making consistent progress towards something. You just didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Yeah. How many, so when you left, how many properties did you have at that point?
I didn't have, I'd say 30, about 30.
That's a good amount.
Man. Yeah.
I mean, that's more than the most, right? 30.
Yeah. Well, I guess so I was starting the same thing at basketball. I was surrounding myself with guys that had hundreds, 300. I'm talking to them. And when it starts diminishing.
That's like me with you right now.
Yeah. So you
say 30, like, dude, I got like 4.
Yeah. But for me, when I'm talking to those type of guys, I'm like, damn, 30 is not a lot. So in my brain, I'm like, 30 is not a ton versus.
Well, there's always that next level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's who you surround yourself with, like, exactly like you said. But I mean, 30 is a lot, man.
Yeah.
And really, I wanted to go back to why we brought you here, Mario, and Justin said the whole entrepreneur thing, right?
Yeah.
And you're an outlier in that you have how many total rental properties right now? How many have you had in your whole career, would you say?
So I had about 120 at one point.
Right.
And I sold off about 40. So I'm under 100 now.
Right.
And having 100 plus is really like a dick measuring contest.
Yeah, sure.
There's no need. It comes down to
it
has to be cash flow, has to make sense.
Yeah.
I sold off a bunch of crummy properties because when I had the 30, I wasn't cash flowing, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I was just turning and burning, and I knew what I was doing.
Right.
But when you analyze and sit back, you can look at some homes. You're like, some of these weren't good.
Right.
So I'd say about 8 to 10 of them weren't great.
Right.
The other 20 were solid.
What would you say is great? Like negative cash flow or $100 to $200 cash flow a property?
I'd say 200 to 250 is solid.
Yeah.
For a single family. A duplex, after you're paying off property management, 10% of maintenance costs you put aside.
Yep.
I'd say a duplex is about 400 to 500.
Yep.
The higher, the better.
And you guys say in a month, I assume, correct?
Yeah, like your net.
So let me jump in here, right,
Yeah.
for the newbies. So as I was telling you right before, so I just put my first offer in on an investment property.
Sure.
So break it down. Let's go back to literally day one for you.
Yep.
So what are the things that people, if they're like, I do have this extra cash that's either in a 401k or literally just sitting in the bank or in my mattress, what do I need to think of, right? Like how important is credit? how do I even like find a property? And then what am I looking for when I go see it? Because like if I'm just basing off the numbers, but it has bad bones, like what? Like take us to like the ground level. Like what's the foundation of this?
So the simplest way to be successful in real estate is one, you have to have great credit. 700 plus will open so many doors where you can get your own personal line of credit. And then eventually when you open up an LLC, you can get business lines of credits. There's a ton of lenders that will, they'll charge you a small fee to help you find these sources of credit. So credit to me is number one. Number two, if you have, to me at minimum 50,000 saved is a nice cushion to have in the piggy bank if there's a maintenance expense. The third thing would be the acquisition side, which is super important. Right now, there's a shortage of housing. I would look at a couple different routes. One would be agents. Agents are a great source of finding you deals. Number two would be wholesalers, like guys at wholesale that understand numbers and give them the exact buy box that you're looking for. And then the third route could be you just telling friends and family what you do. Like, hey, I'm looking at buying real estate. If you know anyone interested in selling, I'd be interested in selling. However, you may get deals sent to you and they could be dog shit. But the deals I would look at in the beginning, your first one, it would be turnkey. Nothing exotic. Like you said, bones. I would get it's called a 3-point inspection. You can pay the home inspector to do like the basic top 6 items in the property to look at. And it's worth the $350 investment or $500 to have them walk it. And if they say, yeah, all the major stuff is good, it would be one of the checks off the box of, all right, this would be the next step of me pursuing this. Is it a duplex, triplex, or quadplex? That's the first deal I would buy as a rental because you have multiple streams of income and the juice is worth the squeeze for your first one. But I always go back to keep the first property very basic and in good shape. Okay. My first property was a duplex. It came with 2 tenants that were underpaying, but the property was amazing. It was immaculate. I didn't have to do anything. And what it does is it teaches you more about being a property manager and dealing with people and writing leases. And if they're late on a payment, then how to do the renovation part. I would steer when you're getting past 5 to get into looking for a real contractor. First 5, I'd be with the handyman. Get the handyman down, get your property management basics down, and it's the confidence thing. You'll get confidence in taking it to that next step of like auditioning a GC. Yep. Like Tyler and I talked, he's very fortunate having his dad. He trusts him. The trust is like everything.
Yeah.
I've lost tons and tons of money on the trust thing.
Yep. I've heard so many horror stories.
Yeah. Like we're white, like I guess, we kind of have a white collar background, but for me, I didn't have a blue collar background. When I was at WB Mason, I thought the mentality of blue collar guys, not everybody's like that, but was like, I'll pay you this money and you're going to do what we talk about. Just like white collar.
That's how it should be, right?
It didn't happen. Like, what the hell? They told me they were going to do it and they don't show up. And it blew my mind. And I was getting burned left and right. I'm like, what is going on here? So that's the first thing when you're coming from a white collar experience. Do not think it's the same.
Completely different. Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, so that's my first thing.
Now that's the investment side, and I know you also do flipping.
Yes.
And from my understanding, I've seen a lot of your content, and I feel like I hear it all the time. This Burr method.
Oh yeah.
So explain what's that?
So the Burr method is for rentals. So the Burr method would be the way I keep it super simple is you have to purchase the property and do the renovation under 65% of the value of the home. And that would be all the costs associated with buying it, renovating it, your holding costs, everything. The reason why I use the number 65% is when you go to the bank, they're going to refinance you 75% of the value of the home. The reason why I keep that 10% buffer at 65, most investors, including myself when I first started, I didn't factor in closing costs, origination fees from lenders, and that chunks out commissions. That chunks out like 5%. And it gives you the wiggle room of not coming to the closing table with any money. Because the key to the Burr is free. It's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. That's what it stands for. But if you miss it, you're truly not doing the burr if you're coming to the table with money. So that's why 65% is it's a super conservative number, but you can get the deals, but you're not going to do 10, 20 a month. It might be
difficult.
3 or 4 a year, maybe, but that's still worth it at that point.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't know.
so
I
that's
thought
burr.
that had something to do with flipping the property.
Well,
so
you're
that's then entirely.
You're rehabbing. You know, so that's why it's a little bit like flipping.
Okay.
But then, like Mario said, you're holding it, you're refining it, pulling the cash out, and then using that to say go buy another one.
Yeah.
And is that how you went from say 30 to 100? Did
Correct.
you mainly burr?
All of them.
All of them.
Every single one.
Now,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on just because I'm doing it, myself, not the
Yeah.
burr, but flipping and everything. In today's market, I don't think it's possible. Like, what are your thoughts on now with how the market is, and have you even been able to do it recently?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the key: is you have to go direct to seller.
Yeah.
If you go direct to seller, you're able to work just more creative deals out with them, which would be they really need cash quickly, and there's an exchange. I always say there's an exchange for quick cash for equity.
Right.
And if they're willing to take the cash for the equity, it doesn't mean everybody will, but you will find those pool of about 10 to 20 a year. I think that would really be considerate. The type of seller that I've dealt with, I don't feel like I'm screwing them over or anything. It's more they need this exchange. They have no attachment to it, or they just need to offload it. And those are generally where you find the deals. But I like to find out what the problem is. How can I solve it? How can I help them out?
Right.
Because I want them to walk away from the closing table feeling, hey, this guy's a stand-up dude.
Right.
He did what he told me he was going to do.
Right.
And that's the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
When you're buying direct from seller, and they give you great referrals, and you pick up deals from them, because generally distressed people know distressed people.
Yeah. Right. right.
And they'll give you good inroads to other people looking to sell the property.
Now, how are you getting to, say, these people? Are you using just because I've talked to so many people in the industry about it? Are you buying lists of potential foreclosures? Are you sending them out mailers? Are you making calls? Are they just coming into you from you doing it now for say 10, 15, whatever, how many years you've been doing it?
Not necessarily. What I do is I have virtual assistants. So I have virtual assistants in Venezuela, Honduras, and the Philippines. Yeah. It might sound like a foreign concept, but in our business, it's very common.
Yeah,
very
we
commonplace.
use them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's great. But they all already have a sales background. It's surprising.
So they're making the calls for you.
They're making the calls.
Wow.
Before I stepped in here, I have a super hot lead from a VA who called a guy in Philadelphia, and he just simply called him on the phone. Speaks great. So we do an English proficiency test. So we do a disc test and an English proficiency test. If they nail our criteria, they take the next step in us hiring them.
Right.
But they're generally really good on the phone.
Yeah.
They're savvy.
Yeah.
They've done jobs with Amazon, Verizon, so they get the sales part.
Yep.
It's catering them to what the script you have.
Yeah.
And they generate the cold call leads. People say cold calling's dead, but we get a decent amount of leads from cold calling.
Wow.
Cold calling's the only like real metric I feel like there is in sales. It's like the only way you're guaranteed to get appointments to be able to sell to anybody.
Yeah.
It's
We know
it's
it.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, you got to.
So
And
dialing is a good.
Now these virtual VAs, are they? So they're making that cold call.
Yes.
And because I've looked into it myself.
Sure.
But I haven't gone down the whole route of talking to them or, getting to that part. I've just looked more from an outside, like this is how it's done and everything like that. When you're giving them, I'm guessing, the list of these potential pre-foreclosures.
Correct.
Are they able to discuss numbers, or are they more so kind of getting a litmus test and then giving it to you to then call and discuss that?
Yeah. There's levels to the virtual assistant, and it comes with a pay scale.
Sure.
Generally between $3 to $4 an hour. They don't know. Yeah, they don't know how to gauge a comp or ARV.
Yeah.
If you go up between like $5 to $8, they're pretty
Which
good.
is still nothing.
I know.
That's crazy.
And they know it. They know
Wow.
they know ARVs. They know renovations. I wouldn't say they're totally turnkey.
Right.
I still role play with them once or twice a week to keep them sharp. But
Sure.
they do know comps. Like they would know
Interesting.
more than the common American. Surprisingly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're pulling the comps for you. You're not doing any of it. They're looking at it and.
Oh yeah, they'll drop it in our CRM
Wow.
and we'll verify it. But I'm telling you, they're pretty solid.
And then they'll just be like, "Hey, Mario, we got a deal."
Yeah.
And then you kind of just take it from there, or are they even
Yeah.
closing the deal?
So I haven't got them to really close it,
Okay.
but they get it to, like, I'd say the 5-yard line.
And then you call and just kind of
Run
it up the middle.
I'll do it with them. I'll do it
Okay.
with them. I want them to feel connected to it, and eventually they can kind of take it over.
Right.
I haven't had much success. I feel I've hired a bunch of American I'd say closers.
Okay.
The American guys I have closing, they're amazing closers.
Right.
But there's a sense of entrepreneurship by a lot of guys that I hire. They're mavericks, so they learn it, and they just want to do it on their own. And that's fair.
Sure.
I'm not mad about it.
Right.
But with virtual assistants, there's a sense of, like, they want to be part of a tribe.
Yeah.
I noticed, like,
Loyalty
internationally,
factor.
they're
Yeah.
loyal to you.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys face that, but that's the one common denominator that I've liked with VAs
Yeah.
versus hiring salespeople, especially high level sales guys. They're not gonna. It's hard to keep them,
Right.
because even if you pay them $200,000 a year, they're gonna
Yeah, they're gonna
look
find
for
somewhere
more,
where they
and
get
grass
more.
is greener. Yeah.
That's why they're in sales.
Yeah.
They want
They're
no,
good.
you know,
Yeah,
cash.
sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
so-
they're in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many VAs do you have, and do you how many hours do you have them, making these calls?
So we have 8 right now. I have
Wow.
2 on the acquisition side, and I have my personal assistants from Honduras,
Mhm.
and the other 4 are in our property management
Okay.
team.
So you're running your own property management too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tried? And sorry to overtake this.
No,
Like I said,
this
I'm
is all
asking
good
questions
stuff.
even on my own
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
On the property management side, have you used other property management companies like in the beginning, and then was like, I could just do this myself and cut down whatever 25% or whatever the heck they
Yeah.
charge?
I thought about it, and what happened was they, my original time when I got my first 3 properties, I'm like, let me learn property management.
Yeah.
And after I learned it, I thought about hiring someone out, but I didn't have the money, truthfully,
Right.
to pay somebody.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm just going to
Well,
keep.
they're taking a big chunk. Of you.
Yeah. And I needed the cash flow at the time, and I kept managing it myself. And then eventually, it goes back to the mentors. I linked up with a couple great mentors who were like, why don't you just outsource this stuff? Your time is more valuable
Sure.
than doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can provide a scope of work, a video. They're very seasoned, and they really connected me to going offshore on a lot of these things. They're like, dude, Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-Hour
Yep.
Work Week. He did it 15 years ago. He was a trailblazer.
Yep.
And it just opened my eyes to, like, saying, you know what? I don't need to be attached to anything. And they're
Right.
very competent. They're all college educated, and I'm a huge fan. I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan.
That's awesome.
I could tell you I'm a huge fan.
Actually, on that note, so I know one commonality we all have is seeking mentors, having coaches in our
Yeah.
life. So I actually saw one of your posts. You actually have a process to kind of how you identify these people.
Yes.
So why don't you share that? How do you identify who you want to surround yourself with?
Yeah. I would say the way my process would always be, can I feel the pain in their voice? If it's the same exact thing I'm looking to accomplish or become where they were at, can I relate to them? Is there a connection to what they've been through, the struggle? They've had some landmines they stepped on, because I know that landmine I could possibly step on, so they could prevent me from doing it.
Yeah.
So that would be one, and you could just tell if someone's credible, right,
Mhm.
Justin?
Absolutely.
Tyler. So that's like my first criteria. Like, when I'm talking to them, do I feel it? And that's just an instinct thing.
Yeah.
Second thing would be, if it's a specific topic, business, anything, are they the expert on it? And is it verified by other legitimate people that are part of the organization or part of their tribe? And that kind of pulls it together for me to make a decision on it. And so the person that's my mentor, I pay him a decent amount of money, and he has another tier, which really locked me in with the guy. Is he mentors people that are already doing like 7 figures a month, and he's their mentor. So to me, I'm like,
This guy, yeah.
and then all his people actually have the mentees have more followers than him on social media. He's just not a big social media guy. And I'm like,
Okay.
this guy's just a wealth of knowledge. He just wants to pour into people, and it obviously comes back. The more you give, the more you get. And
Sure.
it just I've seen that from most of the mentors that I've hired, that they give so much that they want you to. It's painful for you not to do well, and it's painful when you like people leave the group. They I could see that they're in pain because they're like, why'd this guy leave or what happened? So, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I from sports, that was like, I guess our first like seeing what mentorship looks like from coaches, players. I would always pick brains of like DeJuan Wagner, guys like that, Dominic Mejia. I mean, I remember sitting on a plane with Dominic Mejia going to Vegas and just talking to these guys, man. They just give you a couple nuggets and you just do one thing and it boom.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
Accidentally too, right? Just drops out there. They don't even mean to. They're just, constant flow.
Yeah.
But you're so right. It's so important to have somebody like helps you with that roadmap.
Yes.
That's, you don't have to tell me how to do it, but if you tell me what to avoid, that's more important a lot of the times, right? So to jump back into the real estate side of things, though, you had recently posted about it was like selling it back to yourself, the property, or flipping it back to yourself. So what does that mean?
Okay, what's the easiest way to explain it? This is when you bring in a private money lender. I'll give you an example. I purchased the property on Friday, and the down payment for the property was $50,000. Okay. I put a $15,000 fee on it for my company for acquiring the deal. Okay. So I had to come to the table at $65,000.
Right.
I have a private money lender in New Hampshire who funded the $65,000 to put down as the down payment. And I worked out a deal on the back end with my contractor that he would cover 100% of the renovation, 100% of the cost and everything, because I do trust this guy really well. We've done flips together for 7 years. So the way I was able to, let's say, get paid up front and get paid in the end was I built my company on the purchase for $15K.
Yeah.
Have a private money lender cover the cost of the purchase and the company check. Purchase, we have the renovation going, and then when we sell it, I'm going to 50-50 it with my buddy Mark. And that's the way I could double dip by getting paid on the front and getting paid on the back. It all comes down to numbers. If your numbers fit it in, it works. And I told Mark very clearly, I said, my company is going to charge us $15,000 for it, and he's going to inflate the renovation to make sure his company makes money on it. So it's a fair, as long as you're transparent, everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody wins.
And so that's how you can get paid in the beginning. You can also do it with rentals. If you get it cheap enough, you can build in, say, $10,000 so you can keep, the lights on to keep your payroll going, go through the renovation process, and then refinance out of it. But it comes down to, can it fit in that, say, 65% formula? That's how I gauge if I can get that done. Yeah. And then if I'm borrowing money from the guy in New Hampshire, does his interest on the money, the $65,000, fit into that deal? Yeah. I don't know if I'm going too quick, but
no, I'm
cool?
getting it. Yep, yeah. So the private money that you're getting, they're essentially somewhat giving you like a line of credit that you're not going to keep tapping, but you're paying an interest on that. They're not putting a lien on the house or anything like that.
They are.
Okay.
The right way to do it, and I educate all my lenders on it. I have lenders all across the United States that do this. And I could explain how you can get private money lenders. But what I do is I tell them, we're going to put a promissory note together and record it as a lien against the home, because they have self-interest in the deal.
Yeah.
There's no money exchange between you and me.
Right.
The money goes to the title company as a third party. So the title company receives the money. I don't touch the money. And then the title company puts it to the appropriate places.
Disperses you that $15K.
Yep.
Right.
And the document is recorded against the home. So when we sell it, the promissory note's taken care of first.
Now, are you having an attorney write that promissory note, or is the title company doing that? Or are you doing it?
So you guys know surety title.
Yeah.
They already have templates prepared, which is awesome.
Oh, you were telling me. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ask Trish, I deal with, she's the transaction coordinator. Before she provided me one, you have a notary sign it, stamp it as well, and you just draft the promissory note, and then you give it back to them, and they record it. They'll send the file to the lender, the private lender. What I like to do for my lenders, where they feel comfortable and they keep coming back, is every week we take progress pictures and put it in a Google Drive, and we just upload it and send it to them.
So they know you're doing it,
and they see how it goes. We also we use I don't know if you know Trello. We use Trello internally, but we personally put all our projects in stages, 5 stages. And we're going to start sharing the stages as well with them to see, like, all right, we're in stage 2 of this renovation, stage 3.
Right.
So it gives them like that digital dynamic, and the
Yeah.
picture, whether they look at it or not, it just shows the
You're
efficiency.
providing the
and-
info.
Yeah.
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 And we're doing it again anyway. And we're
Right.
Like, just let's give it to them.
Right. And more
Yeah.
information is always better, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome. So you're I've noticed from watching you kind of on social media and just you talking, right now, you're big on processes. I saw you had a checklist for everything. I mean, you had a checklist for looking at a property. I saw you had a checklist for what's a good renter. I saw the other day. And I'm big on processes too.
Yeah.
Really streamlining everything because, it just makes things so much simpler. And once you get it done, the process on paper, then you can duplicate it and you can
You're right.
bring in people to do it. So talk a little bit about like what really got you into focusing, because so many salespeople like who, like we are usually, most salespeople are just running and gunning, right?
Mhm.
Chasing that next sale, chasing, that next dollar. And they don't take the time to be a business owner or an entrepreneur and really, write those processes down, because when you write it down, then you can kind of see inefficiencies and all that. And then, like I said, it can be duplicated.
Yeah.
So what got you like really into focusing on these processes and doing all these checklists and everything like that?
Well, let me back up because it struck a nerve when I listened to your podcast and you went to that high level business school.
Goldman Sachs.
And you talked about processes and systems and how important it is, because it was something that I totally did not understand or care about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk to other business owners that don't have them, you can walk in a room and just immediately identify they have systems.
If people are just running
everywhere.
everywhere.
They're stressed. They're like freaking out on their phone. I'm like, this guy needs systems and processes. So when you put them in place, you start identifying who has a system and process, who doesn't. So how I was able to identify it comes back to, I didn't create it. I didn't know. I was a mess just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Had a mentor 3 or 4 years ago who I went to for strictly systems and processes. Strictly system. I heard him on a podcast, and everything he said just struck a nerve. I'm like, I'm that guy. I kept saying, I'm that effing guy.
Yeah.
And
Literally speaking. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I called him, and it was crazy because when he explained it, I'm like, this is so effing simple. I never thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, recording a video, documenting everything, creating a column to the left and the right, what you like doing, what you don't like doing, and then what you like doing, and then give everything away that you don't like. And I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
if I didn't pay him or seek the I would have never known systems and processes.
Right.
So yeah, I mashed it together between his info and then what I know, like the checklist and all the.
Because you're doing it anyway.
Yeah, because I'm at a point where I'm like, these were all the things that played out in the process. So let me document it, put it on there. And we have a person every Monday, Friday, go behind the project, double check the contractors. And it's just a good process.
Yeah.
Because I used to do it. Now I don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah. Like I was saying, a lot of times people are just running and gunning. And
the difference between owner and operator, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Because you don't want to take the time to, it's not fun taking the time to write down all your processes. It's fun going to chase that client, having a meeting, getting a big sale, but it's critical to be able to scale to get, getting those processes in place, because you'll never be able to scale. You'll always be chasing. People will be leaving your company, employees, like you'll always be running.
You're right. The cheat code that I had with him was he was a real estate systems and process guy. He already had all the paperwork for me. I just had to simply shoot the video and give it to him. I know, I'll give it to you.
That's even more important. Like you had clarity though, right? Like you knew what you wanted, so it was easy to go seek and find the answer to the question. That's being resourceful. That's what people miss. They would have just gotten any coach. You're like, no, you have a fitness coach right now. This guy has no idea about finances.
Right.
And that's what I think to the mentors too, is identifying the people who are doing the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's who else is going to teach you those things.
And you know what's interesting? I look at the ROI. Anytime I've paid a mentor, a fitness coach, the ROI is a thousandfold. It's not even close. So when people get gun shy on the price, you got to just bag it and say, you know what, I trust my gut, and even though it's scary, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's the scarcity mindset, right? Of I'm investing compared to I'm sacrificing, right?
Exactly.
It's like, what am I not getting by spending this $100 a session or whatever? It's what am I getting out of this? I think that's what's like sales, like getting back to that's what we miss sometimes. It's like you have to inject value into things to get anything back, right?
Yep.
It's always that full circle. You can tell the people when they walk in the room,
Yep.
they're like, all right, this guy is going to try to schedule a lunch, and all he's going to do is ask to get my whole book of business. And like, that's not what this is. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you ask me about my family? There's
Yep.
37 layers to me outside of business.
Sure.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, and it's built. Yeah, you're right. It's built on relationships.
Mhm.
I mean, my mentor uses he calls it relationship capital.
Yep.
Your capital is based on your relationships. The more
Yep.
relationships you have, the more inroads and networks. You can call somebody and they can help you out like that because you have a relationship or what have you. So yeah.
Now with this mentor, I think that's who you were with for the Deal Maker
Yes.
event you were just at.
Yes,
So
Mark
why-
Evans.
Yeah, tell everybody a little bit about that because it looked amazing. I saw crazy cars. I saw names that I was like, Mario's just in the room with these people right now.
Do you know some of
Jets
the
and
guys there?
I knew a couple of the
Like Wes
faces.
Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, I didn't know how big he was.
Dude, he's a monster, and I love his he's almost that Goggins mentality where he's like, "Fuck all your excuses. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear it. Don't complain about things." But yeah,
So,
what happened?
So I
there?
can tell you. So it was interesting. My wife and I never knew who like Sean. You know Sean Whalen?
Yeah.
So Sean Whalen, he was my
Lion's Not
favorite
cheap
speaker.
for those who don't. Yeah.
So we're Friday night. This is how I guess sometimes you put people on a pedestal, and if you don't know that they're on a pedestal, it was just normal.
Yeah.
Friday night, we're outside, and I saw Mark Evans. He's my mentor, and it was actually his 45th birthday. So he has his 45th birthday every year, and it brings in like his closest friends, has a huge party, and then he also has like a mastermind. So Sean Whalen and him, I saw him. We're grabbing like a salad. He's like, "Hey, you guys want to grab a cigar outside?" And there was already like 10 or 15 people outside. He's like, "Meet me outside. We'll grab a cigar, and I'll be out there." So we go out there, and like Sean Whalen sitting next to him, smoking a cigar, and all these like I call mini celebrities in real estate are out there.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's incredible to be in a room full of people like that. And
Yeah, 8-9 figure guys that
Yeah,
are making
it's wild.
huge impacts. They give all these things back. Yeah, it's
yeah.
So what
And his
was
wife
like,
was there. Like his wife was saying how she's got his back unconditionally, and like they really created like a team. Like she's with him no matter what. Anywhere they travel, they're always together. And but it's just little simple nuggets that they share with you that you're like, I know I'm in the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Wes Watson, like he was in jail, like he was telling his story, and he's just a no nonsense type of dude. You know,
Yeah.
like there's no excuses. And I mean, you guys live by that code.
Yeah.
But
yeah. 100%.
and that's the most rewarding part at times. We were just saying about like you're like, oh, I'm on the right track. About when you're reading books,
Yep.
when you like things you didn't realize were actually there was a name for it. You're like, oh, I've just been doing that. Like it is so reassuring that you're like, okay, a lot of these investments, sacrifices, whatever word we're going to use, they're all for something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's cool when you're in a room like that versus another room, I would call it, is you don't feel like you're bragging in a room with people that are trying to achieve and go to another
Right.
level.
Yeah.
When you may be with sometimes friends or family, it could come off as like he's a dick. He's trying
Yeah.
to brag, and
Yeah.
you're careful with what you say. With them, you could totally
Be all open.
be all
Any
open.
financial numbers, no, but they're just facts.
Yeah,
right?
they're
It's
just
not
facts.
a flex. It's
Right.
just fact. This is
Yeah.
what
Right.
this was. This is what I'm looking to invest. You know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they just cut through the BS, and you feel alleviated that you can let your guard down. So I guess that's one of the big advantages I like, is where you can feel comfortable in your own skin of like sharing serious stuff that you're going through, whether it's good, bad, and different. You can lay it out there, and and they can help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you so you brought up that he had his wife there, and I think you had your wife there, right?
Yeah.
And I see it seems like your wife and yourself do a lot together. Just because I get your mailing on the emails with the properties, and I see her email at the
Yeah.
bottom. So talk a little bit about like that dynamic.
Yeah. So the interesting part of partnering with your wife is we butted heads a big time in the beginning.
course.
Like,
I would.
yeah, like I feel like we all have wives, or
I'm
like,
shocked
our
you
wives
said
are,
just the beginning. I was like, still to today. What?
That would be rough.
Yeah, and she's an alpha, I'm an alpha. So we clearly defined roles. Like that was the biggest thing, is I'm bad at this, you're great at this, and boom. And it really helped identify us not getting each other's way.
Yeah.
Even though we work together, we don't see each other much during the day. We may email each other and text for business. The one thing I would say, the truth it might lack, is maybe some intimacy, to be honest with you, because you're always working and
You're
trying to
always on it,
strive.
They can't
That it
turn
might
off.
not be the same as like a person that turns it off and doesn't work together. Like we talked about it and we're very open about it. But I know she has my back unconditionally. likewise. And what I love about her is her background. She's a general surgeon, and she just has the brains. Like certain things that she thinks of is just outstanding.
Yeah.
And she's very humble, and I appreciate that about her because I'm humble myself. But she's humble. She's really did great with social media. Back to TikTok, like she's crushed it with catering to the Latin women community on real estate, and it's just such a small niche that she's just crushing it. And I know she's going to explode from it. Like, mark my word, she is.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
when you have that target, like you see them realtors that like kind of have that target of either like Latin women or maybe Indian, like, you know, whatever it is. They crush it, man.
Yeah. Like there's an Indian woman in multifamily and she just crushes it.
They crush it.
So,
because there's that dynamic of trust that you're working, you know, with a similar kind of background that can kind of get you in there, you know?
Yeah,
so
and culturally, awesome. You're right. Because you're from a third world country,
right?
So I've actually been all in on her brand. Like I'm really big. I'm like, let's put more money in advertising on Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah,
do more lives. Like I've been pushing her ass to do it because I'm like, eventually that would be our really a great source of income because I've seen money come in from it. I'm like, I know it's going to work.
Right.
Probably like your buddy. I mean, it's real. It's real, and so that's been something that I've seen like kind of slowly. It might go like a hockey stick curve, but I can see it turning that way if she's just she keeps being consistent with it. But I look at all of us. We have to be present online, but I don't see me scaling the way she can. I just don't have the ability because of a million guys do what I do.
You post great stuff though.
I appreciate it.
With videos and all that stuff. Yeah,
I like doing it too to educate young guys because there's people always try to do a bunch of stuff and they don't. And maybe it gives them a tip. So when I go into it, I'm thinking, what could be a good tip that maybe they can think differently?
Yeah.
Versus, you know,
something that took you a
ton
while
of bad
learn.
Stuff out there too, right? People more than willing to take your money to give you just bad info.
Oh yeah.
Getting on Facebook ads all the time.
Yeah.
Learn how to flip watches or something like that.
There's definitely been like a common theme, which is so refreshing to hear. It's like how important your partner is, right?
Yeah.
Because Rourke, he was talking about that on the last episode that, you know, when he went on the Next Level Chef, like he was really like the bitch voice was just like screaming. He was like, I'm not really a chef. Like I'm a barbecue guy. And it was like my wife literally looked me in the eyes and was like, we're talking about Gordon fucking Ramsay. Like you have to go on this show.
Yeah.
And he like brought a friend in that was a chef on MasterChef and he gave him like a 4-day crash course. And like, here's how you cook duck. But I was like, the fact that your wife, right? Like somebody should champion your dreams, push you. Because like whether she's your partner or not, she's your partner, right? Like in the business, your business doesn't do well, it affects her life as well. So it's one of those things I think people overlook sometimes. And we've talked like millennials, we're not getting married as often. Divorce rate is down because of that, thankfully, in general. But it is so important to have somebody that champions you in the day-to-day grind.
You're right. I also think, you know, us three in general, like we're always going to strive to grow.
Yeah.
And if we're with a woman who doesn't strive to grow, you're going to grow apart. It's impossible. So they're not working on their own mental, their own physical, their own, you know, I know your wife does the same thing as you, your wife does. It's there's going to be a separation.
Yeah.
And you have to have constant conversations too. I mean, you know, things are not always sunshine or roses, but we have real conversations and we fix it and move on. But it's you definitely have to have that alignment with your partner, especially being a millennial. That's why it took me so long to be in a serious relationship because I knew I wasn't aligned with all my partners.
Yeah.
And you were super focused on what you were doing at that point too, right? You're building an empire.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So why don't you know, before I feel like this last question you're going to have some depth to too.
Yeah.
So
So you know, we always try to ask our guests something that the viewers can kind of learn from.
Sure.
So a failure or mistake or maybe a few that you've had in the past that you know can potentially help our listeners with, you know, maybe not.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do and they kind of how you got through it.
Absolutely. I would say two big failures I had in business. So I've had 6 businesses, 2 of them complete flops, and one almost put me in complete bankruptcy. The first one I'll talk about was I bought into a franchise called Yoga Factory. Did it with 2 partners, and went through every roller coaster ride possible. in the beginning, it was cool. We ran a business plan. We went to the SBA Express business loan. We got it approved in like 7 days. Everything was perfect.
Yep.
We do the retrofit. We learned all the building, how it all works. And then boom, the store goes up. And it just didn't do what we thought it would do. We were sold a dream. They didn't provide us marketing by buying a franchise. So it taught me very quickly, like, shit, this is hard. The 2 things I learned was, out of the 2 partners, one wound up filing bankruptcy, which he didn't need to do, and that's another story. The other one, at the time, is still, I consider, one of my best friends. And we got even closer by sitting in a foxhole together.
Yeah.
And just taking the pounding financially. Like we took a fucking pounding doing it.
Yeah.
And Justin knows. I mean, he did our payroll in that first business, and it was just not a successful business.
Yeah.
I learned a lot by selling it twice, by learning how to sell it, seller finance, and the first deal blew up, then the second deal finally went through. But at that point, we were just cool with cutting our losses.
You're so done with
So
it.
we were the distressed seller.
Yeah.
We sold it for pennies on the dollar. Like
Right.
and Sean will tell you, we sold it for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And then the second idea was more of an ego play. I was extremely, I thought I knew everything about real estate. I was like, let me start a construction company. Justin again does my payroll for me.
Yep.
And I just didn't know anything about operations. Like I didn't have this mentor about systems and processes.
Right.
Even if I did, I would never do it again.
Right.
Because I have no construction background. But in theory, the idea made sense.
Yeah. I have that idea. Today, actually.
Yeah. But that was
so that's
where
good to know.
I almost went bankrupt from it, because the amount of capital I invested into it, and there's a draw schedule that you have to you get paid. So there was so much money just going out and not coming in, and I was all in disarray. So when I told you I went from 120 down to 80 plus, it was because of that.
Because of that business.
That got me out of the bankruptcy situation.
So with the construction company, because like I said, I do think of this in that you kind of brought it up in the beginning, that blue collar mentality versus the white collar mentality. And I always say to myself, if I had a construction company, I could sell the crap out of, I know I can with the processes and making sure that kind of that white collar mentality. But it sounds like you said a little bit ago that even having those operations, you still wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it's not a legitimate, massive business to make money. You'd have to bring in a key operator, like a project manager that knows his stuff inside and out, has equitable interest in it.
Right.
I had 2 really good people, but none of us knew how to run the business, like the business.
Like, I didn't know nothing about construction. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the same as me.
I could sell it.
Same here. I sold so many jobs, but we couldn't get the job.
We're super
done.
similar in that, so I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah,
but I don't need to claim bankruptcy.
Yeah, it was ugly, and that's true. So what saved me was having the rental properties, and then
the assets, right?
Yeah, but what it does is it puts a lot of like self-doubt. So there was a couple years. I mean, I'm telling you, I was going to. I remember with my wife, we were finishing off projects, and I would get like tachycardia in my heart, and I'd have to recline back in my driver's seat. I remember getting ice cream one time, and it was just so stressful, the amount of debt I was swimming in. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to be here. Like, I'll fucking die young from all this stress. So then I started doubting like who I am and all that shit you go through.
Why you did that. Yeah.
And then you overcome it over time. It's not easy. It's a day-by-day process, and we eventually got out of it.
Right.
But I learned a lot. I wouldn't say I would never buy a business again.
Yeah.
But it would have to be a seasoned business, a seasoned operator. Everything has to be seasoned.
Right.
Proven books.
Right.
And but yeah, startups are hard.
Yeah.
Because I've done 3.
I mean, what's the Justin probably knows the numbers from a payroll standpoint? What's the amount of like failure?
Fail in the first 3 years, but like 60% fail in year 1.
Right. Yeah, it's like crazy, right?
Yeah, it's not,
and then the 10-year mark, isn't it like ridiculous?
The room, it's like every decade it gets smaller and smaller. I don't know the statistic for how many make it to year 10, but
for you, I actually have a question for you. So when you take on clients with payroll, obviously you want to be optimistic and excited for them, and you're taking on a new client. But if you feel it's not a good deal for them, do you just kind of keep your emotions aside and you're just like,
absolutely. So I'm big on the education process, right? So like I get a lot of folks who walk in and they maybe only have that 2 or 3 employees, but do they want to spend the money on it, or could QuickBooks maybe be like the better example for them? And I will definitely guide them. And it always comes down to, like, do you want to trade time for money? That's really what it comes down to, right? Like, is it most profitable for your business to have your employee, even if it's a half hour a week, spend that time doing payroll? Or is it worth it for like a smaller account like that? You're gonna be talking about like $1,800 a year for somebody to just deal with the tax notices, file the quarterly returns, do the W-2s, just the basics part. So I really do. Like I try to keep it very honest on that aspect. And then I always explain, like, for the small companies that are maybe going from one of the big guys that sign them up for all these things, I'll have to explain like tax liabilities to them, because most folks have no idea how, like, that there's employer portions of taxes. They're like, whoa, I paid somebody $100. Why'd you take 113 out of my account? And I'm like, well, but when you switch mid-quarter, you have to explain to them, like, hey, there's going to be this portion of taxes that are unpaid. So I'm probably too thorough sometimes. I probably give people a little bit of a headache because they're like, well, now this is scary. But I really try to be upfront, because to your point, like, taking on that expense for some businesses could be the backbreaker.
I think it's very smart business to do that way. And I know Tyler does this, is explaining to them the reality, whether they use you or not, you're laying it all out to them. And I do the same thing with real estate. I'm like, I can't do this, but if it's okay if you don't sell to me or buy, it's totally okay. And honesty helps you win mostly in the end.
100%.
Just pass on things.
Because whatever happens, right? If they go to another company, if that business doesn't work out, they're gonna be like, this guy, help. I have a ton of people that they call me like quarterly. They don't use the service yet, but they're like, hey, like, we're getting there. Here's here's my questions, and like I'll talk to anybody. I enjoy helping. But so for you now, like, you've checked most people's boxes, I would assume, on the real estate side. You have a beautiful family that's growing. What's next? What's next
is I'd really, as I mentioned, I'd like to focus on my wife's brand, help building that out. We actually have an event. We're going to do an English and a Spanish event at River Winds on September 9th. It's a Saturday from 9 to 3, and we're going to do a dinner later for an additional charge. But we'll have the half of it will be English, the other half will be in Spanish only, because she has so many Latin people that want to get in real estate. But I really am trying to pivot a little bit towards her brand, because most of our business is pretty set. And getting her like situated, and then maybe entertaining a business again, like purchasing a business, but it has to have an operator in place. It's around for at least 10 years. I actually speak to the Vantage guys about it to try to find like a really solid business that's been around for years to see. But so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Are you thinking like the Cody Sanchez model of like buy the boring business, like manual labor, that you can just make the process like a little more efficient and something that won't go out? Or do you want to buy, like, do you have like an industry you're kind of thinking business-wise?
I'd be open to it. It has to still be around. I think it has to be a distressed seller. It has to be around for minimum to me 10 years. And there's opportunity. Like maybe sales and marketing is lacking, but they have reoccurring revenue. It could be like a cleaners or something, dry cleaner.
Right.
But they don't push it out hard enough on the dry cleaning side. But something in that world I'm open to. I don't want to get into construction. Maybe distribution I'd be open to, like wholesaling, distribution, things like that. But so that's really what I've looked into, but I'm going to be very, very careful.
Yeah, super selective.
Yeah.
I was shocked to hear that 1 in 12 businesses in the U.S. each year, they just close because it doesn't sell.
Wow.
And like they're
interesting.
Cody Sanchez is one of the people.
I love her.
And that's what she talks about a lot, is like, and they're cash flow positive, and they're just nobody, like, there's no successor to it. The staff's just like, I guess we'll go get another job somewhere. Like nobody wants to take the responsibility, and it just closes its doors. So I have an introduction to make for everybody who's like private equity. He does it solo, ex-MLB guy. But you guys might be able to work together on some things, because he's very selective, smart kid too.
Cool. Okay. That sounds great.
Awesome. All right, gang. Well, awesome having you on, Mario. I think the listeners definitely can take something from this, from just all your experiences on the real estate side.
And this was a $1 million episode, I think. The amount of now my brain kind of hurts a little bit from like trying to stay in on all that. But
I know.
I try to dummy the numbers down. It's very helpful knowing that the inside of the math.
It does.
It wasn't quite a fire hose. It was like drinking just from the hose out back.
Well, you do a great job, like I said earlier. I've said it probably 10 times this episode, of putting that on social media, really making it understandable. So just before we leave here, where can people find you on Instagram, TikTok? I know you said your wife's TikTok. Why don't you share?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's just my name, Mario Lancioni. I've been trying to put more long form videos on YouTube together, which I think give a better explanation of a deal. So I'd like to have a habit of putting a full deal together of how I sourced it, how I renovated it, and how the end result, whether it was good or bad.
The whole
I want to
process.
get full transparency. One thing I see lacking from education is they don't provide HUDs if they really did the deal. So I'm going to provide the purchase HUD, the after HUD, the construction, but to pull it together in a video, it's a lot of work.
It's cool.
It's cool, but I want to do that because it gives a lot of value for people, whether I have one follower or 1,000. Doesn't matter. But
I think you got more than that. Even if they're not following, I mean, Justin can tell
you got two right here.
People,
exactly. I appreciate it.
You got more than that. You'd be surprised at how many people, like watch that stuff that you don't even kind of see out there in the world.
I get some phone calls like that, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And then my wife is Real Estate Con Andrea. So it's Real Estate with Andrea. So it's Real Estate Con Andrea. She's pretty big on TikTok. She's I think she has about 9,000 followers, but they're like legit followers.
Yeah, that's big, man.
Because you could have ghost followers, but she's got so many. She gets bothered all day.
Yeah,
which is good.
That's good.
Yeah, so she's awesome, and we can't. I mean, maybe you understand Spanish more than me or you, but
no.
All right,
a little bit.
High school.
That's all she does. She speaks in Spanish.
Spanish one was rough.
Yeah.
I got to like the intermediate. That was all right, but now most of that knowledge is just gone. My brain's very good at like useless stuff. Like,
I did recently.
Just deletes it.
Recently, I got that app. I forget what it's called that like teaches you not Rosetta Stone, but it's like a newer one or something.
Okay.
Because I was like, it'd be cool to like learn Spanish. I did. It was probably like last year I did it.
Something
And
we gotta do for the kids.
I put it on for like
you
a week, and I couldn't stick with it. I was like, I can't do this.
There's a cool book called Unlimited Memory, and I actually am reading it twice. I would totally look it up on Amazon.
Yeah.
It explains to you how to remember shit. And I didn't believe that I can remember because I'm getting older. It's total BS. It explains how to like pretend anything that you need to store in your mind, put it in a car, like on the emblem of the car, and visualize what you have to remember. Like say it's a Spanish word.
Yeah.
It's on the front of the car. It's in the seats of the car.
Right.
And if you put it in context of a car or inside your house, words, and you put associations, you can remember it. Like I remember quotes now because I'm like, dude,
it's interesting.
I put it in this piece of artwork. So they give you different things that you can start tying.
You're visualizing it.
To visualize it.
Yeah,
that's how most memory.
Instead of just looking at a book.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, completely.
Great book. So I had a. What's that?
Is it Jim Quick? I feel like he talks about a lot of memory stuff.
No, that's not the name. I should remember that.
Yeah, right.
You didn't put it on the emblem.
That's exactly. It wasn't
but I can give it to you for the show notes because it's actually a great.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll definitely share that. Yeah, I'm interested myself.
Yeah, it's good because I had a a scarcity mindset where I'm like I can't remember stuff anymore. I'm getting older. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I tell myself that a lot, so actually good to know. I got to read that book because I was actually talking to my wife coming in here. We just moved recently, and I forgot because I still have my old primary. We're going to list it in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I forgot the trash day. I'm like, was trash day? It was only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm like, was it Thursday or Friday?
That old place. I don't remember that spot. Right? What house you talking about?
I don't know how I forgot that. It's crazy. It's just on that same thing.
I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, one more thing before we sign off.
Little party.
Got a little parting gift for you, dude.
Oh, sweet.
Got you some swag.
I love it, bro.
A little Millennial Outlier
I'm gonna wear that. Nice and proud, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So.
It was great talking to you guys. I appreciate your time.
No, we really appreciate you scheduling, coming out with us, and honestly dropping a ton of knowledge for the audience. So make sure follow, stick along for the YouTube videos that'll be coming out. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our episodes. And as always, best day ever.
Best day ever, gang.
You know it.